Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Walter Zimmerman. I'd like to make this video here today. Excuse me. It's about the 5 fears that pretty much all of humanity face on a daily basis. Thank you for tuning in. There are certain fears that go deeper than any everyday worries. They don't just affect our decisions, they shape how we live, what we believe, and how we see the world. Most of us don't even realize how much these fears influence us because they operate quietly in the background. But once you begin to see them clearly, you begin to understand yourself and others on a completely different level. Today, we're going to explore 5 of the deepest fears that have shaped humanity for centuries. Number 1, the fear of extinction or the fear of death. At the root of all fear is one central question: what happens when I no longer exist? The fear of death isn't just about the physical body. It's about the unknown, the uncertainty, the idea of nothingness. This fear has shaped belief systems, religions, and entire cultures. It's why people are searching for meaning, why they cling to answers, why they look for something beyond this life. Because the mind struggles with the idea of ending. So it creates explanations, stories, and beliefs. Anything to avoid facing the unknown directly. But what's interesting is this: the fear of death is not something we experience constantly. It's something we think about, which means that fear exists mostly in the mind, not in reality itself. The fear of mutilation, loss of the body. This fear is about physical harm, the loss of bodily integrity, pain, injury, damage. It's deeply wired into us for survival. Without it, we wouldn't protect ourselves. But in the modern world, this fear becomes exaggerated. It becomes overly cautious, overly anxious, constantly trying to avoid discomfort or harm. And while protection is natural, living in constant fear of harm creates tension in the body and the mind. It limits experience because when fear dominates, life becomes something to avoid instead of something to live. Number 3, fear of loss of autonomy, control, and entrapment. This is the fear of losing control, being trapped, being restricted, being unable to act freely. It shows up as claustrophobia, fear of confinement, fear of being controlled by others. But it also appears in subtle ways. People resist authority. They fear losing independence. They avoid situations where they fear powerless. Because autonomy, the ability to choose, is deeply tied to the sense of self. When that's threatened, fear rises quickly. But here's something important. Sometimes the greatest form of control isn't external, it's internal. The fear itself becomes the thing that limits us. Oh, excuse me. Fear, number four, fear of separation, abandonment, and isolation. Human beings are deeply social. We are wired for connection. So the fear of being alone, rejected, abandoned runs deep. The fear can shape relationships. It can cause people to stay in unhealthy situations just to avoid being alone. It can lead to seeking approval, needing validation, fearing rejection. Because at its core, this fear says, if I'm alone, I'm not safe. But the deeper truth is, connection is powerful. But dependency driven by fear can be limiting because when we fear being alone, we stop being ourselves. Number five, the fear of ego death, humiliation, and loss of identity. This is one of the most subtle, most powerful fears. The fear of losing identity, the fear of being wrong, the fear of being exposed, of being differently, of being seen differently than we want to be seen. It shows up in the fear of embarrassment, fear of judgment, fear of looking foolish. And this fear keeps people from speaking honestly, questioning beliefs, trying new things. Because the ego wants to stay intact. It wants to feel right, feel safe, validated. But growth often requires the opposite. It requires letting go of what we think we are, and that's where fear appears. The connection between all five fears. These fears may seem different, but they are deeply connected. They are related to loss. They're all related to loss. Loss of life, loss of body, loss of control, loss of connection, loss of identity. And because of that, they shape behavior in powerful ways. They influence belief systems. They influence decisions. They influence how people respond to the world. They shift from fear, the shift from fear to awareness. But here's the key fear itself is not the problem. Unseen fear is. When we're aware of these fears, when we're unaware of these fears, they control us. But when we see them clearly, something changes. We gain space, we gain understanding, we gain the ability to respond instead of react. Final thought. So maybe the goal isn't to eliminate fear. Maybe the goal is to understand it. Because when you understand what's driving your thoughts, your reactions, your beliefs, you begin to see things differently. And when that happens, fear begins to lose its grip and clarity begins to take its place. Thank you for watching.